gardeners, welcome back to another Q&A. Today we're going to be talking about your fall garden. So let's get into it. Question number 1, how can you transition your garden from summer to fall? By the end of summer, you're likely going to notice there's some deadheading that needs to be done. That means remove the spent plants, get anything out of there that doesn't look good. More than likely your lettuce is spent, any spinach. That'll create more room for you to pop in fresh plants for the fall. And more than likely you need to refresh your soil with a few extra nutrients for your new plants. So in this case, since we're planting in a lot of greens for the fall, we'll be dosing up the soil with blood meal and feather meal, both of which are nitrogen heavy. Question number 2, what plants can you plant in the fall? It's important to consider what can tolerate a frost because we all know winter is coming. So it's important not to be putting in anything that loves summer heat, things like peppers, tomato, and eggplant. Those days are done. Plants that you can plant in the fall that are safe and can tolerate cold weather are things like oregano, thyme, parsley, kale, and lettuce. You can also plant bunching onions this time of year and chard. Chard is beautiful and it grows until it gets super cold. However, you want to make sure you eat it because it won't survive the winter. Last but not least, it's important that you put your garlic in the fall in October so that you can harvest it next June. One important thing when you plant your garlic is you got to make sure you pick a spot that it can stay put. Considering that you're not going to be harvesting it until June, you want to make sure you're not crowding the spots for your spring plants come next year. Today we're going to be planting elephant garlic. You can see it's massive, just like an elephant. It's important to put the root down and the pointy tip up, just like the bulbs you put in your yard. You space them 6 inches apart. Make sure they go down nice and deep, about 4 inches under the soil. Considering they don't have roots yet, we just want to make sure that it's insulated by the soil, and we'll even be adding a little hay with a rock on top to insulate it for the winter months. I like to plant my garlic bulbs along the line of your box so it doesn't take up a lot of the real estate in the center. When you put your bone meal in your hole, just give it a little sprinkle, roughly about a teaspoon each. Stir it up. The most exciting thing you've seen all day. When you plant garlic, make sure you leave the plastic wrapping on each of the cloves. When do I start my fall garden? If you're like me and you sprout your plants in advance, the time frame for that would be in August. These plants were sprouted August 11th and we are in October now, so I like to give them about 6 weeks behind the scenes to get ready to be put in the ground. What is the absolute last day I can harvest before winter? Well, it really depends on what Mother Nature throws our way. If you see frost in the forecast, it's super important that you go out and pick all of your tomatoes. Even if they're green, you'll have a better shot of letting them ripen inside versus them freezing on the vine and then they are mush. There are a lot of things in the garden though that can tolerate a frost. Things like lettuce and kale and even broccoli. You can just leave those be and you'll know exactly when to pull them out. They will look dead after the temperatures dip into the low 20s. What else can you plant in the fall for a winter harvest? We have some beautiful transplants already in, but we can actually be putting some seeds in as well. You can sprout things like carrots, spinach, and cilantro in the fall for a cold, hardy winter harvest. So that was it for our fall Q&A. Stay tuned for our winter Q&A where I will answer and address all of your questions in that season. So I like to plant garden. I like to plant garden.